Hi everyone and welcome back. We are Rugby for Days. My name is Stefan and I'm so glad and I'm so privileged to be joined with our newest member, Jock. Jock, how are you doing?
Good, and you?
Good, can't complain. So in this video, we're so glad to be back in studio. We had this lockdown period where we couldn't even do any videos in studio, but we did launch a brand new podcast called The RFD Show. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcast at the moment, so if you can, go check that out and give us some feedback with that. But with that being said, we're going to jump into this video. We're going to speak about the Super Rugby Competitions and the two teams that might not even be relevant in the next couple of years. So first of all, we just heard back, I think yesterday or the day before, that the Sunwolves came out and they announced that they are buying out of Super Rugby. This should have been their last year. So let's just quickly speak a bit about the Sunwolves. What was your opinion about the Sunwolves? You know, how they played in Super Rugby. What did you think they achieved in Super Rugby? Just your overall thoughts about the Sunwolves franchise.
I think the Sunwolves franchise was a good idea at first, bringing rugby to Japan,
yes.
Especially after the Japanese team beat South Africa.
Yes, 2015.
2015, we don't talk about that one.
Yes.
But I think that sparked interest in rugby in Japan. So I think the Sunwolves coming into a big competition like Super Rugby was a good idea. I think the execution was not a good one.
Okay.
In the beginning, I had a suspicion that after the Japan World Cup that Super Rugby will just like throw away the Sunwolves because it just sparked interest in Japan, and then it was like, no,
yes.
it's over. And now it's your turn to go on. We helped you a little bit. So I think in the beginning it was a good idea, but it's not a long-term thing.
You know, I'm actually agreeing with you with that opinion, because we could have seen it this year. Now, because of the whole COVID thing, and we can't do any sports at all, and with all the competitions being cancelled indefinitely until further notice, except the New Zealand Aotearoa franchise of a competition that is going on at the moment, or is going to start right now. I think with the Sunwolves, we could have maybe seen it this year, them lacking more than the previous years, because they didn't do too bad in previous years. For me, they literally actually shifted out the Western Force, because the Western Force wasn't a great franchise at that stage. They had great players, you know, Nathan Sharp, I think, played for the Western Force for quite a while, and there was a couple of good players that played for the Western Force. If I'm not mistaken, David Pocock as well, he was a Western Force player at that stage. But so the Sunwolves didn't play too well in the last couple of years, but it's actually sad that we couldn't see them ending their last season. Yes. So because because of things that happen out of their capacity or out of their control, or the things actually that happen all over the world, that was all out of our control. Now we have to see a franchise being literally bowing out of the Super Rugby, and they couldn't even finish their last season. And that, for me, that's quite sad, because all those players will probably go to other Japanese-based clubs. I think Willie Brits played for them for quite a while, yes. And there's Van der Heever, I think, as well. There was a wing, played for the Bulls. Yes, he played for the Bulls and also for the Stormers, and then he left for Japan. So I think that's actually very interesting. But what do you think? With that being said, so the Sunwolves was the newest franchise in Super Rugby.
Yes.
So the second, just before the Sunwolves actually came in, the new kids on the block was the Jaguares, of course, the Argentinian-based side. What do you think about them?
I think that was a good idea from Super Rugby's standpoint.
Okay.
I think Super Rugby is a Southern Hemisphere competition. So I think with the Argentinian team coming in, I think that was a good idea. And we also saw progress since the beginning. When they came into the competition, they struggled a little bit because it's from different clubs. They formed in to make a team, but they were in the final last year. So we saw good progress from the team. We saw growth. We saw the Argentinians sticking together, like the lines that they built. They had one team. They built on it. So I think that was a good idea from Super Rugby. it looks like they're going out now, but that's just rumours for now. So I would like to have seen them still being part of, but with the time zones, with time differences, it was quite hard for other teams to support their local team when they were in Argentina.
Yes.
Because that's a huge difference.
The next day.
Yeah.
You're New Zealand. We'll be playing Sunday.
Yes.
It's actually Saturday evening.
Yeah. So I think that's the only negative that I have of the Jaguares.
Yes, they're based where they are based. No, I completely agree with you. I think the Jaguares wasn't a bad side. That's not the problem. I think it was, in a sense, interesting to see so many Argentinian international players playing for one club, performing at such a high level in Super Rugby, but failing on the world stage, which is that's really interesting. That's actually that's like a dagger in the heart, because if you see all the players playing a season or 2 seasons, or let's say some of them even played 3 seasons with each other, they were in international colours as well, but they just couldn't form a great championship team to go and compete against not South Africa, because actually they beat us, I think, 3 years ago here in South Africa, so I won't call that, but like England, for example, or France, they struggled. So I think it's very interesting to see them, but also that's just rumours. And I think it's really cool to speak about the rumours, because the rumours are there's 2 different rumours, that the whole team might go out. They don't know yet. That's also rumours. And the second one is that the players, the good players, actually will leave the Jaguares franchise to play in Europe. Maybe I think maybe the top 14 or the English Premier or whatever, any base side at that stage. So I think that's really interesting to see them. But with the Sunwolves, it's sad to say they're out now. We won't see them in Super Rugby again. Just on the side note, maybe we won't even see Super Rugby again as we know it.
Yes.
So with that being said, what do you think would happen if there was an opportunity where a Super Rugby could just be hosted with one nation? For example, the Super Rugby teams go to one nation and they literally host the Super Rugby competition for 6 or 8 weeks. What do you think about that?
For me personally, I wouldn't advise that. I don't think that's a good idea. For me, rugby is a professional sport, so there is travelling involved. So that's a lot of other factors that play into a game. So for me, one nation hosting a competition is not right. Okay. It brings all the money into that nation.
Yes.
So that doesn't give, like, for instance, if we in Pretoria at Loftus, we don't get the money. So there's no what do you call it?
No source of funds.
Yes, no funds coming in to support the stadium itself. So who pays for the stadium? And for me, there's a lot of suggestions being made about like the Australasian Super Rugby tournament that brings Asia into the Super Rugby.
Yes.
I think that might be a solution, but I think if South Africa pulls out of Super Rugby or just one nation, I think like the whole group, the Sunwolves group, will have a big blow on finances and supporters. So one nation hosting it, I don't think it's a good idea. The support will not be there for the other teams as good. So I think that's a lot of negatives on that point for me.
That's really interesting, because I, as just a rugby supporter, not looking at the economics of things, would actually love to see them being hosted in one nation, because that would rotate. So if we could rotate, let's just take like the Super 14 or 12 format, and we just took the 3 nations that originally played in Super Rugby. So we take that, and we could actually host every 3rd year. We get the chance to host a 12 or 14 or let's say 8-week competition in South Africa. So they are going around. There's literally a team playing in Port Elizabeth, Bloemfontein, Cape Town, Johannesburg and Pretoria every weekend. There's literally so many games to see, because it's just in South Africa. That would also spark a lot of international fans, because there will be international teams playing here. So for example, like the Highlanders could play the Western Force or the Brumbies in Pretoria. So there's no Blue Bull supporter going to look at that. There's going to be an international player or fan. He's going to go like, okay, I'm going to go check out these two teams, how they play, maybe spark some interest and so on. But the economic side, I completely agree with you. But then there's still challenges that they have to face. And I think with that being said, it's going to be very interesting how Super Rugby will continue from this point on. Because as we speak off camera about how our lives are changing, this pandemic is going to change the rugby and rugby format forever. We will see different things, and we will look back one day and say, can you remember when Skalkberger played? They didn't have this things to look after or anything, and now we need to look after all these things. So that's very interesting. But in any case, that's all that we have for this video. Thanks so much for joining us. If you stay to the end, please consider smashing that like button. That will really help with the algorithm, or so YouTubers tell us. We don't know actually. So you can do that. Then also please drop a comment. If you don't agree with us, maybe you would like the Sunwolves to, I don't know, make their own competition or something, please just throw it in the comment section below. We'd love to get back to that. We love to talk to people who do not agree, because we don't always agree. So that's also very cool. And then don't forget, our new podcast show, Rugby 4 Days, or the RFD show, is on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So please go check that out as well. And then Jock, I'm gonna leave you with the question of the day, so you can post that to our followers. Okay. What do you think?
So for me, the question is basically, why does the Southern Hemisphere competition struggle so much with teams traveling and playing together, when the Northern Hemisphere teams and the competition stay the same for a number of years? Why does Super Rugby need to change its format every few years to get viewers? Or what is Super Rugby doing wrong? Because they're changing a lot, and the Northern Hemisphere competitions doesn't change that much. They have a constant following, constant full stadiums. So what's going on with Super Rugby?
Okay, so lots of passion behind that question. I'll go post my answer on the comment section as well. Till next time, stay safe.
Bye bye.